suicides and suicide attempts fell in 3 of the locations, while the 4th maintained a low rate of suicides and attempts. Fox News headlines 24/7 on this Monday afternoon. This is Sirius XM 115.
Fox on Film.
I'm Kathleen Maloney. The best-selling video game of all time, sparking the best movie opening of the year. A Minecraft movie bringing in $157 million in ticket sales from theaters in the U.S. and Canada.
Is there anything you can dream about here? You can name.
The film starring Jack Black and Jason Momoa breaking the first-week record for a video game adaptation previously held by the Super Mario Brothers movie. A Working Man starring Jason Statham falls to second place in its second week, adding $7.3 million.
Look at those bricks. You're in a car. You're working there. That's right. Let's play.
Third place going to The Chosen Last Supper, earning $6.7 million over the weekend. Snow White slides to fourth place in its third weekend, bringing in $6.1 million. And rounding out the top 5, The Woman in the Yard with $4.5 million. Kathleen Maloney, Fox News.
Coming up next, we'll check the Fox weather forecast and get to all of your top stories as we head to the bottom of the hour here on this Monday afternoon. Fox News headlines 24/7 in Sirius XM 115.
Kudlow on Fox Business is now on the go for podcast fans. Get key interviews with the biggest business newsmakers of the day. The Kudlow podcast will be available on the go after the show every weekday at foxbusinesspodcasts.com or wherever you download your favorite podcasts.
Prescription products require completion of an online medication consultation with an independent healthcare provider through the LifeMD platform and are only available when prescribed. Subscription required. Individual results may vary. Additional restrictions apply. LifeMD.
CrowdStrike monitors trillions of events to detect threat.
Lure her partner, Michelle Abdul, over to the apartment too, because a business check that size requires both of their signatures. Eventually, Ackerman realized that he wouldn't get away with it and didn't go to the bank.
Ackerman hates a lot of things. He hates a lot of people. I think he hates himself.
Rhodes. He's out with a new book called Who is Government? The Untold Story of Public Service. I wanted to start with the first story, but I'm going to start here because I feel like the link is, if you look at everything that's been slashed, there have been years, sometimes decades of seeds sort of sown by the right in terms of dehumanizing the federal bureaucracy, dehumanizing the foreign aid. And the reporting gets at the human beings that is sort of maybe the first step at reversing that trend.
So the reporting starts because I walked into the federal government during the first Trump administration, wondering what it was they didn't know about, because they showed no interest in actually learning about the government, and being totally shocked by the caliber of the person who was there. Like mission-driven, passionate people who are there to serve the American people, and they're usually expert in something very narrow. What they all also have in common is they're horrible at telling their stories, and there's a wall between us and them, a wall of politicians and communications officers and all the rest. So the stories don't get out. The minute you know those stories, like even one of them, there are 8 of them in here, but when you know even one of them, you can't hold that stupid stereotype of the lazy, wasteful, possibly corrupt federal worker in your head. You just
So tell us the story.
One of the stories?
Yeah.
All right. So the lead story that I write there is about a fellow named Christopher Marks. He works in the Department of Labor, and he solved the problem of coal mine roofs falling in on the heads of coal miners. A problem that, I didn't know it was a problem, but it was a problem. It was a problem that was so big that 50,000 American coal miners were killed by falling roofs in the last century. It's like this very dangerous occupation.
Yeah.
And the industry showed no interest in solving the problem. So this guy, it so happens this guy comes from, his dad is kind of cool. He rebelled against his dad when he was a teenager. I'm not going to be my dad. He believes that the dad was an engineer who had figured out what held Gothic cathedrals roofs up. He became the world's expert in why they don't fall down. The son runs away from home basically, goes to work at a coal mine, sees the roof falling, says better figure out how to fix this. Goes into the government because it's the place where you can solve this problem.
Right.
And over a period of 30 years, the intellectual journey, like how he does it, is amazing. But what actually got me interested in the first place and like to write about him was he says, when I was talking to him, he says, I said like, oh, so you just like relived your dad's life, but he did it, you know, Gothic cathedrals and you did it underground. You stopped coal mine roofs from falling. And he goes, it had nothing to do with my dad. And you could see this like drama that had happened. And the cool thing is, he and his dad could get, when in the year 2000, the National Cathedral in Washington looks like it might be falling down, like it's too big for the foundation. The government called his dad to figure out like what's going on and is it going to collapse. And the dad realized he couldn't do it without the son, because the son had figured out underground like what was going on. And so they worked on this together. They worked on it together. That's how. But this is a guy who, like, no one's heard of him. His dad was famous actually because PBS did things about the Gothic cathedrals. He saved thousands of lives. He had no particular interest in having his story told. Was bewildered when I called him, like, why are you interested? Just got used to this idea. And he's behind this wall and like, Americans don't know about it. And you like wonder, like...
But is the tie, I mean, and there's a national interest, right, in protecting workers, and that's why that job is in the federal government. If the federal government gets rid of him, does the industry...
No.
Okay, right.
Same
with pediatric cancer research, right?
So it's sort of like one way to think about the government that I've come to think of it working on these stories is it's like where all the problems go that the private sector doesn't want to solve because there's no money in it, right? And a lot of those problems we as a society have agreed we want to solve them. There's a huge plume underground of nuclear waste in western Washington from the plutonium production in the 1940s. It is headed towards the Columbia River. It will poison the Pacific Northwest if it gets there. The government is engaged in trying to stop that from happening. And there are thousands of things like that the private sector just isn't doing. And so what's wild when you get in is the problems are actually, they tend to be kind of more interesting than the problems of the private sector.
Right? They're bigger.
That's right.
They're bigger. They're moonshots post moonshot. They're moonshots without press.
That's true. That's true. And so the coal mine roof guy, Chris Marks, he actually ends up being a historian of his own movement. He goes back and says, like, why didn't the private sector do this? Like, you would think they wouldn't want their workers to die. You would think that they wouldn't want the mines disrupted by falling roofs. And he tracks this history. Like, the technology was all created to make it safer. And the way that the industry was so competitive that instead of using it to make it safer, they used it to reduce the cost of mining while keeping the risk the same. Like, it got no better. Yes, and the miners just put up with it. And it didn't get better until the government actually came in with enforcement powers and said, Chris Marks figured this out. You got to use what he figured out. And then they're all actually very happy. It's win-win. Like, the government isn't just imposing this and the industry hates it. When everybody has to do it and they all have the same competitive disadvantages because of it, they're fine with it. And so it's like there are reasons why we have this government, and what's going on now is it's being attacked by people who are not appreciative of it.
I have to say, but I want to come back to this and ask you if this sort of age of hunger for stories means that these folks could tell their story and expect something different to happen. But I have to take in a break so you get 2 hours to think about the answer. All right, we'll be right back.
At Certain Painters, we know that a happy place comes in many colors, like ones that inspire a sense of wonder, or a new flavor that makes life just a little bit sweeter, or one to celebrate those moments that lift you to new heights. At home or at work, we'll make your happy place your own. CertaPro Painters, that's painting happy. We proudly use Sherwin-Williams paint.
It feels like home.
Inflation has pushed up the cost of just about everything, which means if you bought life insurance a few years ago, it might not be enough to protect your family today. Call SelectQuote now, and we'll help you save more than 50% on term life insurance. We found John a $500,000 policy for only $14 a month. In a hurry? Don't worry. Call Select Quote now and get up to $2 million in instant, affordable, same-day coverage with no medical exam. That's right. You can get up to $2 million in instant, affordable, same-day coverage with no medical exam in under an hour.
Call Select Quote at 1-800-460-9090. That's 1-800-460-9090. Or go to SelectQuote.com now and get up to $2 million in instant, affordable, same-day coverage with no medical exam. That's 1-800-460-9090.
Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Give your dog a wag-worthy life with Dogtopia. Enroll in a weekly daycare at the leading dog wellness provider in North America, where dogs get to play, learn, and grow in a safe and fun environment. Best of all, tune into the fun via live webcams. Feel good about the health and happiness of your pet by joining the Dogtopia family today. Visit Dogtopia.com to find your nearest location or to learn about franchising opportunities with the biggest name in the game. Dogtopia.com.
All power, zero compromise. Eagle cordless outdoor power equipment features advanced lithium.
How can they be complaining that your tariffs in Britain are 2 or 3 times higher than ours are? European tariffs are substantially higher than Japan's are. So all we're saying is, if you all believe in free trade, okay, let's get with the program, get those tariffs down. Trump will then keep our tariffs low and we'll have free trade. But we're not the villain here. The other countries, including Britain, that have had higher tariffs than we do are.
Well, a short while ago, I spoke to Art Pope, the chief executive of a North Carolina general merchandise retail chain and a longtime Republican donor. What does he make of the stock market turmoil of recent days?
The stock market is only the first blow. You see many Americans losing their investments in their retirement accounts and directly own stock. Not every American owns stock. However, every American buys their clothes, buys their shirts, buys their shoes. So the next blow is going to be when retail prices increase, which will take a couple of weeks to a month for the new Trump tariffs to take place. So you'll see the price increases in May, June. And then I think you'll see another wave of opposition and concern that President Trump's, rather than delivering on reducing the cost of living, is actually increasing the cost.
I mean, given all this turmoil, do you regret having voted for Donald Trump last November?
No, I do not. I mean, I regret this policy he's implementing, but unfortunately, from my perspective, and the majority of the voters, Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party did not offer an alternative. They did not move to the middle, had their own policies, which I think would have been far worse for the country. So this is bad, but I still think that the Democratic Party policies for America would have been worse.
I think it would be right to describe you as a Ronald Reagan Republican, and I was wondering, how is it that your party has gone from the champions of free trade to one that now advocates tariffs across the board?
It has not gone yet. It is still very much the center of the debate. President Trump, during his first term, pretty much implemented a traditional Republican Reagan agenda with lower taxes, deregulation, strengthen the family, and he did it with the help of Republican Congress. This time he's gone. We are just now seeing how clear the break has been. It's not really a break with opposition. The tariffs proposed by President Trump and being implemented by him will be one of the largest tax increases we have ever had in America, especially since in peacetime. So that is the opposite of the lower taxes that President Reagan and conservatives have supported in the past. But also he's doing it through executive action rather than through Congress. And Republicans and conservatives believe in a limited government separation of powers between our executive branch and our legislative branch, and sued successfully President Biden when he exceeded his authority. So now you've seen litigation already filed over this issue as well.
I mean, I've mentioned, growing unease within Congress. Why don't Republicans speak up more?
President Trump did come in with a very strong mandate by getting a majority of the popular vote as well as electoral college. And he's been very effective in defeating his critics within the Republican Party and Republican primaries. But he's been able to do that because he had the voters mandate, the voter support, because they believe he would lower their cost of living, lower prices. As we've seen with the decline of the stock market, as I think you will see when prices go up, you will start losing that mandate and losing the political capital, the goodwill he has with Republicans in Congress. So I think you will see more Republicans in Congress step up in opposition to the tariff policy, even while they support President Trump on other policies.
So you do.
The fact that we have the ignorance sets the table for the destruction. But the point of the destruction is curious. I mean,
what is the point of the destruction?
Well, he came and said, he said a couple of different things. He said he wanted to cut $2 trillion out of the deficit. Then he said it was waste, fraud, and abuse. But you could tell from what they've done that whatever they think they're doing, it's different from what they say they're doing. Like, if you wanted to eliminate fraud, the last thing you do is get rid of the inspector general at any agencies. It's the independent referee who is not beholden to anybody, who's been crawling.
The ease of the fit got me pretty confident at the outset that we were on the right track.
It seemed possible that the victim was Scarlett Wood, although investigators still weren't 100% certain. But at least they had somewhere to start.
Campaigned on, the stock market continuing to do.
I think the difficulty in this moment for supporters like Bill Ackman or Wall Street guys who kind of converted over time, weren't necessarily there during the first term, weren't there during the second election campaign that he lost, is not understanding the difference that Trump was entering this White House in terms of mentality and mindset.
The tech-heavy NASDAQ, it was up 15 points. However, shares of mega caps Apple, Microsoft, and Tesla fell. Shares of Apple have fallen nearly 4% today. The shares have lost about 20% of their value in the past 3 trading sessions, wiping out almost $640 billion in market cap. Now, according to the Wall Street Journal, the tech giant plans to source more iPhones from India as a potential tariff fix. The Dow lower by 349 points, NASDAQ up 15, S&P 500 lower by 12. Business news, twice an hour, Fox News headlines 24/7. I'm Hillary Barsky.
I'm Janice Dean, Fox News senior meteorologist and host of the Janice Dean podcast. Be sure to subscribe at foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget, there will always be a glimmer of sunshine.
The world is spiraling out of control. Financial markets are extremely volatile. Global conflicts are escalating and inflation is everywhere. How do you protect yourself when everything's uncertain? The answer is gold, specifically the 2025 1-ounce Gold Eagle in flawless MS70 condition from Global Coin. It's a lifeline in these chaotic times, a rock-solid asset that has outperformed for millennia. Call 888-418-3707 right now to lock in this stunning coin at dealer cost, just $3,199 with free shipping and no sales tax. Act now. The first 100 callers get a free MS70 2025 Silver Eagle, 2 U.S. minted legal tender coins to shield you from the storm. Global Coin stands by you with a 30-day return policy because your security matters. Visit globalcoinpromo.com or call 888-418-3707 today. No gimmicks, no BS, just incredible coins at incredible prices. That's 888-418-3707.
Taking a look at that Fox weather forecast. Monday afternoon, a Pacific storm slamming into the northwest, dumping snow over the Cascades and the northern Rockies. This is a band of moderate showers, moves through the Pacific Northwest. The middle of the nation gets calmer weather. From Texas to the Dakotas, expect clear skies, dry conditions. Temperature-wise, highs in the 80s, even some 90s impacting Florida. The southeast, high plains of California coast to join 70s, cooler 40s and 50s. Covering the deep south, the mid-Atlantic, the Pacific Northwest. The chillies there in the 20s, gripping the Great Lakes.
Stay informed, stay engaged. Your headlines every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7. This is SiriusXM channel 115.
Fox News, I'm Ted Linder. President Trump telling people to be strong, courageous, and patient in the face of plunging global markets and recession fears after his tariff announcement last week. Director of the White House National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, telling Fox.
The president has made it clear that this policy, he believes, will help American workers.
The president talked trade today with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. President Trump welcoming the 2024 World Series champion LA Dodgers to the White House. Dodgers pitcher Clayton Kershaw says his team exemplifies what it means to come together as one.
The selflessness and humility that each one of these players and staff have shown over the last year is truly an inspiration. They have constantly played hurt, switched positions, and taken the ball to put the team first.
The Dodgers finished last season with 98 wins and will go on to beat the Yankees in the World Series 4-1. America's listening to Fox News.
Fox News Headlines 24/7, keeping you informed with headlines every 15 minutes. America is listening to Fox News Headlines 24/7.
You're listening to Sirius XM Radio.
Honey, I had the worst dream last night. We were in a car crash, and the kids and I were on our own. We had to move out of the house because I couldn't afford it anymore.
That's awful, huh?
You know, my brother was saying he got life insurance from Ethos.
I know it's been on our list. Isn't getting life insurance a huge pain? Oh, it's so much paperwork, and you have to go see the doctor. I wouldn't even know where to start.
With Ethos, Dave said it only took 10 minutes, and he got $2 million in coverage for around $2 a day. Plus, it's all online, no medical exam. He just answered a few health questions right from his house. He was able to choose an amount that worked for his needs, and Ethos made the whole thing so easy and clear.
10 minutes with no medical exam? Ethos, here we go.
Here's to sleeping better at night.
Help protect your loved ones today with Ethos. Life insurance.
You sleep, honey. You're my love.
Yeah, it's snowing already. You don't think?
What?
Snoring?
No.
I heard.
Woke yourself up.
Why? just come out from Auckland Sound.
Just about, honey.
Toronto.
Yeah. Just about all done Toronto. Past the airport.
I'm snoring already.
Good.
We are still Toronto.
Traffic was a lot better than I thought it would be.
I live and I forget.
Namibia. In the world, including Africa, we have very few women president, but the most important person is that the people have voted the person among other citizens, the one they feel will be able to carry the country forward, to build on the strong foundation that is created by our first president, our second president, our third president, and our fourth president. So that is really what the people look at. It was on your merit that the people who nominate and supported looked at you. But it's a good thing that we, as a nations, as countries, we are realizing that just as men, women can also hold the position of authority in our respective countries.
But does that then put pressure on you? Do you feel that there are extra expectations from you, considering that you are a female leader?
Yeah, to a certain extent, because unfortunately, the emphasis now is not on the two-body person. The emphasis is on women. And it's like doing extremely well. I believe it will still be taken that women can do it. But if anything then happen, like what it can happen in any administration under men that we see them. There will also those who will not talk about Netumbo, but rather says, look at women. So that's to a certain extent is a pressure, but I would want to lead in the way I feel is the best for the Namibian people. And I believe that is the characteristics which the people have seen in me. Of course, I would want young girls, young women also to take up that courage and to accept a position of responsibility so that we can dispel that myth of inequality between men and women in as far what we can both do in the public life.
You see, there's context to this. I'm asking these questions because, you know, we saw what recently happened in Nigeria. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Adwogan says she's been facing sexual harassment at work. So I wonder what goes through your mind when you hear stories like these, especially in relation to this particular topic, in relation to female leaders.
You know, I'm a women activist, and I have been and I will continue to fight gender-based violence. That is not a unique story coming from Nigeria. We are hearing it all over the world, that women are being sexually victimized. You are hearing women being asked sex favor in order maybe to be employed or to be promoted. And of course, it's a very, very difficult issue to deal with because not all the victims are ready to come out for the issues to be dealt with. But definitely, one cannot rule it out, but we have to fight it. The laws are there, but the laws on themselves, they don't mean anything. It's people that have to implement.
Right. I would like us to move on to other equally pressing issues. I would like us to talk about some of your country's challenges. Land reform is among them. We know that white people in Namibia continue to own the majority of agricultural land, which means that black people really don't have much of a say. This is troubling, is it not?
You are right in a way, but maybe not necessarily the full statement as you are making it. Truly, land is a serious problem in this country because the colonizers, they have taken land away from the citizens. It's one of the countries, if not among the few, where you have quite a chunk of land which is fenced off. At independence, we have to work on our constitution. One of the elements is the land rights, that the land belongs to the state, except that one is privately owned, which can be expropriated with fair compensation. Knowing what was happening in Namibia, the hatred that has been there between black and whites, our founding president declared the policy of national reconciliation. So we then say, fine, we will not go to outright expropriation, but let us have a policy of willing buyer, willing seller. So quite a number of farms were bought by the government and people resettled. Then we start to have now the land tax. And that, to a certain extent, is pushing some to sell it so that we have land redistribution. But it's true, we still have some of our white citizens, and more particularly the absent land owners who are occupying the land. We have a law on the land deed, which was only recently finalized in terms of drafting, and it is my hope and my wish for that law to be passed.
But please allow me to push you a little bit, Madam President. I would argue that many of these interventions that you've just mentioned have failed because land continues to be at the hands of the white population. It means that none of these interventions have succeeded.
I don't really think if you can say that none of them. It's only that at this stage I cannot give you the number of hectares of land that the government has bought, and hectares of land which some farmers have handed over. They are quite a number, and there's quite a number of people who are resettled. There is progress that has been made, but of course not everything is done to our satisfactory, and that's why even in the SWAPO election manifesto of 2025-2030, we are now saying we have to push for this land bill to be enacted. Because if you do something in Namibia without really being empowered by the law, you just create a problem.
This is a very tricky issue because I would imagine you have to address the issue of land without upsetting global players. I have no idea you would have seen what happened to South Africa. President Cyril Ramaphosa spoke about land expropriation, and Donald Trump, the President of the United States, became extremely upset.
Yeah, for us, one can be upset, but it will be a concern to me, it will be a concern to the government if something was done outside the Namibian laws. But if we are doing it in accordance to our laws, we will not allow interference.
Secure. And when I saw that, I said, wow. I said, that's, you know, I often come back to my bad roots as a sports reporter, and I'm like, okay, you're sitting there in the press box and you're watching this. Trump's moving around on the field differently than he was before. This is different. To your point about the first term, he couldn't figure out how to do things. He spent a lot of time, you read the Mueller report, a lot of time calling Sessions and trying to get Sessions to investigate Hillary Clinton and tweeting about how he wanted Jim Comey investigated. The remarkable thing about the first term is that indeed a lot of those people, through his blunt force, did come under IRS and Justice Department scrutiny. None of them were ever indicted. They were not indicted. And that was deeply frustrating to him, including to his last meeting with Bill Barr, where he's still complaining at the end of 2020 that Jim Comey wasn't indicted. So he comes back, and the thing about the criminal justice system is that if you want to get someone indicted, you have to go through the Justice Department, you have to go through the prosecutors, you have to go through a grand jury, and you eventually have to go before a judge. That's a lot of process. That's a lot of process. They may get there. I wouldn't count them out. But in 2+ months, less than 3 months, it's been different things.
What is the binding nature of any of the deals these law firms are doing?
Nothing. They're true social pose.
So the greatest law firms in the country have been shaken down by nothing through social
Correct.
pose?
And they say, well, we're going to do $100 billion in pro bono legal work anyway. We're going to do $100 million, so we'll just give it to Donald Trump for the year or for the next 4 years.
Maybe Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris should find new lawyers. Should they run again? What? The lawyers are doing these deals. Does that mean nothing?
But there's a hollow nature to the deals that's sort of along the lines of things that you see in Trump's sort of larger business operations. These deals are pledges of pro bono legal work. One of the parts of these deals in the early pro-rights deal is pro bono legal work to the anti-Semitism force. And I asked people about this, and they said, well, that's the Justice Department task force. So I said, okay, so Paul Rice is doing pro bono legal work.
Rain.
They said, yeah, that's never going to happen.
This is how the issues died and ran through social. I want to thank you for your reporting on this. I'm Andrew and Eddie. Stick around when we come back. The United States Supreme Court temporarily blocking a lower court's ruling that would have forced Trump to free home a Maryland dad who was, in the words of the Trump administration, mistakenly deported to a prison.
If you want baby just in the safe area, then I drive.
Okay. Plus, Greg Fearless over U.S. national security after Donald Trump's purge of members of his own national security team, largely at the behest of a far-right conspiracy theorist. Why the timing of
I'd
this
like it to
virus
be a rest
is
area.
making us
We'll
especially
see.
vulnerable right now. We'll have that story later in the hour. Deadline White House continues after a quick break. Don't go anywhere today.
Feel the bass, find the rhythm, and move to the dance hits and remixes that define a generation. Utopia. A channel pulsing with 90s rave classics and iconic 2000s club anthems. Utopia. Channel
Dun, 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 dun.
on TV or other internet-connected devices.
We planned our investments well for retirement. I wish we had more cash. Don't they know they're sitting on a gold mine?
Nope, they don't know that if you own a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, you may be able to sell all or part of it to Coventry for cash, even a term policy.
Don't lapse or surrender your policy before finding out what it's worth. Call Coventry Direct at 800-411-9200 or visit
We're near,
coventrydirect.com.
baby.
Find out if
We're
you're
near,
sitting on
honey.
a gold mine. That's
Baby,
800-411-9200. Call now.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them. They have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go. And that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/.
Supercruiter.
ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy.
Traffic in Toronto. Gosh,
Right now to try
I'm snoring already and
That's ZipRecruiter.com.
still we are in
And your
Toronto.
Jolly Bee go to sleep.
/news.
Huh?
Never
Right?
miss out on great
Yeah,
candidates.
Makes you want to sleep. Jolly Bee.
Yeah. No, my eyes it's kind of too heavy. I want to close my eyes. It's good that I sleep. I have nap. Nappy time. Wow, traffic. $20 more. Tick, 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 tick. Dun, dun. Oh, God, help us. We're home safe, baby.
We will be.
Yeah, we get home safe. Waste Tower. Is anyone there? Anyone there? I'm sorry, I
Go watch
sleep
it.
because I'm tired. driving again. Wellington County. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, raining?
Yep.
Oh, it's snow.
Oh, wow.
Now
6 degrees.
there's snow. Snow is snow is snow. Da-da-dun, da-da-da-da. Da-dun. Oh God. $2.99. African land safari. Baby,
Yes, dear.
I love you.
I love you too, baby.
I love you.
feels nice.
Maybe you don't want to go. Oh, okay.
Not here.
That's the way go to Owensound.
Yes.
Owensound. Tonight we put lotion again your neck.
That'd be nice. Yeah, I can feel it. Feels like it's hot.
Yeah, yeah. And Laura. Yeah.
That's 6 North.
Okay. 295. Okay, that's the one. That's the one.
Gotcha. What's that sign say? 3 kilometers?
3 kilometers.
There, then you can drive.
Cambridge.
Sleep.
Yeah. I will bring you home safe, baby.
Thank you, dear.
We get the traffic.
You might have to shovel the driveway when you get home. The snow?